The Russia collusion crowd is back. The liars, the pathological liars are back.
I think there is both Republican and Democratic concern about getting to the bottom of what happened with the Russian hacking. And then I think another big question that all of us want to know is whether there was any cooperation between an American or Americans and anybody part of the campaigns with those responsible for the Russian hacking.
Have you seen any hard evidence of collusion yet?
I wouldn't be surprised after all of this is said and done that some people end up in jail.
How high does that go in your suspicion?
I don't speak to Russians.
There was no collusion. There was no nothing. It's a disgrace.
The only collusion is between Hillary and the Russians. They all say there's no collusion, and there is no collusion. It's a Democrat hoax.
You want to elaborate a little bit on that? Give us a little bit more, because that's obviously a very intriguing statement.
I wish I could, but I can't at this time.
Ridiculous bullshit.
But this president and his campaign have had an inordinate number of people with deep ties to Russia. There's a saying that a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put on its shoes. And that was before the internet. The evidence shows clearly that this mob was provoked over many months by Donald J. Trump. On December 19th, 18 days prior to January 6th, President Trump told them how and where to fight for it. He first issued his call to action for January 6th. And he said things like, quote, fight to the death. And January 6th will be a, quote, wild and, quote, historic day.
And he said things like, quote, fight to the death.
And I just wanted to clear up one more thing. Mr. Castro, in his first answer, may have spoke, but what he said was Mr. Trump had said, fight to the death. That's false. I'm hoping he misspoke. Thank you.
Defense counsel suggested I misspoke. And I just want to clarify for the record that the tweet I referenced, let me read you the tweet directly. If a Democrat presidential candidate had an election rigged and stolen with proof of such acts at a level never seen before, the Democrat senators would consider it an act of war and fight to the death. Mitch and the Republicans do nothing, just want to let it pass. No fight. So Donald Trump was equating what Democrats would do if their election was stolen. He said they'd fight to the death. Why do you think he sends that tweet? Because he's trying to say, hey, the other side would fight to the death, so you should fight to the death. I mean, do we read that any other way?
But I can't let this rest. Mr. Castro attributed a statement the time before last that he was up here that Donald Trump had told his people to fight to the death.
And he said things like, quote, fight to the death.
I'm not from here. I'm not like you guys. I was being very polite and given an opportunity to correct the record, and I thought that's exactly what he would do. But instead what he did is he came up and illustrated the problem with the presentation of the House case. It's been smoke and mirrors, and worse, it's been dishonest. He came up and tried to cover when he got caught, as they were caught earlier today with all of the evidence, checking tweets, switching dates, everything they did. And bear in mind, I had 2 days to look at their evidence. And when I say 2 days, I mean they started putting in their evidence, so I started to be able to get looking at it. That is not the way this should be done. But what we discovered was he knew what he was doing. He knew that the president didn't say that to his people. What he said was if it happened to the Dems, this is what they would do. In his speech that day, you know what he said? He said, if this happened to the Democrats, if the election was stolen from the Democrats, all hell would break loose. But, he said to his supporters, we are smarter, we are stronger, and we're going to do what they did all summer long. So what he did was he misrepresented a tweet to you to put forth the narrative that is wrong. It's wrong, it's dishonest, and the American people don't deserve this any longer. You must acquit.
I'll start by discussing President Trump's actions leading up to the election, when he set up his big lie. Beginning in the spring of 2020, President Trump began to fall behind in the polls.
The Wall Street Journal NBC News poll released on Thursday shows Clinton has a 9-point lead over Trump.
A new Associated Press GFK poll released Wednesday shows the Democratic presidential nominee 14 points ahead of Trump.
And by July, President Trump had reached a new low. He was running 15 points behind his opponent.
But at this point, you're losing.
First of all, I'm not losing because those are fake polls. They were fake in 2016, and now they're even more fake. The polls were much worse in 2016.
And by July, President Trump had reached a new low. He was running 15 points behind his opponent. And he was scared.
I have other polls that put me leading, and we have polls where I'm leading. I have a poll where we're leading in every swing state.
And he was scared.
Joe doesn't know he's alive, okay? He doesn't know he's alive.
He began to believe that he could legitimately lose the election.
I'm not saying you're going to lose. I am not saying that. We saw how you turned it around last time.
I don't think I'm going to lose at all.
He began to believe that he could legitimately lose the election.
I don't think I'm going to lose at all.
And so he did something entirely unprecedented in the history of our nation. He refused to commit to a peaceful transition of power.
Are you suggesting that you might not accept the results of the election?
I have to see. Look, Hillary Clinton asked me the same thing.
He refused to commit to a peaceful transition of power. Here's what he said.
Can you give a direct answer? You will accept the election?
I have to see. Look, I have to see. No, I'm not going to just say yes. I'm not going to say no. You don't know until you see. It depends. I think mail-in voting is going to rig the election. I really do.
Are you suggesting that you might not accept the results of the election?
I have to see. Look, Hillary Clinton asked me the same thing.
No, I asked you the same thing in the debate.
And you know what? She's the one that never accepted it.
I agree.
She never accepted her loss, and she looks like a fool.
Can you give a direct answer? You will accept the election?
I have to see. Look, I have to see. No, I'm not going to just say yes. I'm not going to say no, and I didn't last time either.
Can you give a direct answer? You will accept the election?
I have to see. Look, I have to see. No, I'm not going to just say yes. I'm not going to say no.
Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transfer of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and you'll have we'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
President Trump was given every opportunity to tell his supporters, yes, if I lose, I will peacefully transfer power to the next president.
A very simple question. If the president loses this election, will this White House, will this president assure us that there will be a peaceful transfer of power? It's a very simple question.
The president will accept the results of a free and fair election. But I think that your question is more fitting to be asked of Democrats who have already been on the record saying they won't accept the results of an election.
President Trump was given every opportunity to tell his supporters, yes, if I lose, I will peacefully transfer power.
In fact, I have several of them here for you. South Carolina Democrat Jim Clyburn has said that Trump is not going to win fairly. Senator Barbara Boxer has said that the only way Trump will win is to steal it. That's according to Democrat Senator Barbara Boxer. The Washington Post has noted, they have a headline, Democrats may not trust the results of the election if Trump wins. And then you have that beautiful quote from Hillary Clinton that Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstance. So I think your fitting is a fitting question for Democrats. Yes.
Kelly, just to understand this clearly, are the results legitimate only if the president wins?
The president will accept the results of a free and fair election. He will accept the will of the American people.
So for clarity, if he loses and it's free and fair, he will accept it.
I've answered your question. He will accept the results of a free and fair election.
Including
yes,
the president.
I speak on behalf of the president.
Yes.
Yes.
His thoughts. Go ahead.
There's a saying that a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put on its shoes.
This was all pre-planned. The FBI knew it might be coming. They were tipped off about it. There are many questions. What the hell did the FBI know and when did it know it? We know that the Sergeant at Arms of the House was told by the former chief of the Capitol Police, you better get some National Guardsmen here and more help. What did he do? Nothing. Did he tell Nancy Pelosi? That would be a good question. Not only that, the Sergeant at Arms of the Senate was told. Well, who does that person report to? He reported to McConnell. Well, what did McConnell know? What did they do? It seems the only person that called up the National Guard for potential use was Donald Trump and nobody else. So what else? We're to believe that Donald Trump was going to send militants up against the National Guard. We're to believe that Donald Trump was planning day after day, for months after months, according to these House managers, an insurrection right in front of our faces. We just didn't know it. Now, here's the thing. The problem is, let me read you some language. Let me read you some language and ask you. I wrote an example of language that I think that might be insightful and incendiary. Suppose Donald Trump said, I want to tell you, Pelosi, I want to tell you, Schumer, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. What if Donald Trump said that? Then they may have a point, right? But Donald Trump didn't say that. That's what Chuck Schumer said on the steps of the Supreme Court of the United States. He said, I want to tell you, Pelosi, I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. So Raskin and Swalwell and the other stooges, you think that's pretty insightful? Yeah, it's very insightful. One other thing. They stormed the Capitol, overturned the results of the election they didn't vote in. CNN did a little bit of a review of some of these people who've been charged with crimes. You know what they found out? A bunch of them never voted. A bunch of them never voted. What's happening here in the United States Senate is a disgrace. You don't have a right. I don't care what scholars say, my friend Ted Cruz says, or anybody else. You cannot impeach a private citizen. You cannot have a trial on a private citizen. You don't have the power to prohibit a private citizen, a former public official, from running again. We have a rogue impeachment, a rogue House, a rogue Senate, a rogue trial. And we have an innocent man in Mar-a-Lago who deserves a hell of a lot better than this. This is a disgrace. A disgrace. That's it.
The great one, Mark Levin.